Hi there, I'm Dr. Lisa Peavy. For those of you who don't know me, I am an osteopathic trained family medicine physician. And today I have new information and updated data for you that I'm going to share in regards to um, injuries and really concerns with this mandate that is taking a stronghold and truly wreaking havoc on millions of people's lives, millions upon millions of people's lives. So, a few things. Let's talk about a few different things here really quick. Can someone who has received the therapy in their arm, can they get the disease afterwards? Yes, obviously. We're seeing that over and over and over again, right? They know that the efficacy is waning after really 3 months, significantly after 6 months, and that's why they're recommending everybody to get a booster shot, right? Because it's not working. Can someone be admitted to the hospital if they've received their therapy in the arm and they catch the disease? Yes, absolutely. I've seen that over and over again. And many people have died from that. Now, I do want to say that there are many people who believe that because of the fact that they received the shot in the arm, that their symptoms are less. And I truly believe that that's probably the case because there is some protection there, right? So there's some protection. We know that there is some protection. Can someone who has had the actual real infection, the native infection, have a severe second infection? Yeah, someone can. I've yet to see a severe second infection, meaning an infection that put them into the hospital. I truly have not seen that at all. I've seen very few people who have had the infection a second time around, but I do see it, and I've seen it in several people. So it truly does happen. But again, I've yet to see one person have to be admitted if they've had the infection the first time around. So here we're talking about the difference between natural immunity, right? And the immunity that one gets from a man-made therapy, right? So that is my biggest argument in all of these, is that so many people have natural immunity already. I will post a link that to over 100 different studies. I'm not saying that every one of them is like a fully qualified study, but you get the point when there's over 100 that are saying the same thing over and over again. That's pretty definitive evidence to support the natural immunity. It's not a theory. We've known about it from the time I've been in medical school. So it's not a theory, and we very much have the studies and the data to support it. So here's just some of the stats that are coming out, right? I'm going to compare the flu because that's a therapy, or in order to prevent that, we recommend receiving, a shot every year in order to prevent that. So just by comparison, when we look at the data between July 1st of 2019 and May 13th of 2020, so almost a year, that's 10 months, right? 10 months worth of time. There were 32 deaths associated from receiving the flu shot in the arm. Okay, so 10 months and 10 months time period. Comparatively, from the time they started giving the new CV shot up until May 13th of 2021. So the majority of those were given, December through May, okay? So that's not even 10 months, not even close. 5,506 deaths were reported. So 32 from the flu, 5,506 from the CV shot, right? That essentially, according to the reported data, right? Again, reported data, that shows someone has a risk of dying 171.8 times more than they would from having received the flu shot itself. Their risk of dying from the CV is 171.8 times greater than from receiving the flu. Their risk of having an adverse event is 53.5% greater than someone who would have an adverse event related to the flu one. 53.5% greater. So is this safe and effective, right? That's the main argument, which it's like stamped on every single post that you put up there, every single social media, anything, they come out and say these are safe and effective. How can you tell me that something that has risk of death greater than something else that we want everyone to get every year for a preventative is 171.8 times greater risk? How can we even humanely say that this is a risk that makes sense, right? How can we say that this is a risk that makes sense? And truthfully, the lack of compassion, not only for those who are choosing their medical freedoms and are not being coerced into doing something against their will, not just for those people, but also for the people who did what they felt was right and best, not only for them, but also for their community, right? They went out and did what they felt was best and right for their community, and now they're suffering horrifically. Just one example of this is he's actually a mountain biker from Boise, Idaho, famous mountain biker, has a YouTube channel and everything else, and he tells his story. His name's Kyle Warner. In, was it June or July? You'll have to go watch his story. He developed pericarditis after receiving the shot, the CV shot. He developed pericarditis, and it has been debilitating for him and his health. He is, at this point, has been unable to resume his career. He's been unable to get back into the activities that he loves and enjoys. He's having to see a regular slew of specialists on a very regular basis. His medical bills are through the roof, right? And that's not even the worst part. The worst part of it is that he has been harassed and bullied like no other for simply sharing his story. He was severely injured by this shot. His career is potentially over in terms of what he had always wanted to do. And he shared his story, which is horrific, in hopes to be a voice, right? And he has been completely just browbeaten by people who, I guess if you want to call it, on both sides. So by the medical community, They're trying to censor, suppress his story, tell him he's lying. He's had a difficult time even finding medical care, people who believe him, although he has legitimate proof. He's lost friends and family members from this. And he's the victim. He's the victim. How, as physicians or medical community, or even just as people in general, can we even justify ridiculing someone who has been injured by doing something that he thought was going to not only protect him, but also protect those around him? It's tragic. I know another gal, and actually I've interviewed her, and I'll be putting her interview out here for you to watch so you can see it personally. But she developed acute flaccid myelitis following immunizations that she was asked to get when she was 17 years old prior to attending college. Okay, so she went and got the immunizations that they said that she should have. Within 3 days, she was bedridden for about 3 months with acute flaccid myelitis. She couldn't walk. This was the end of her senior year, right? I mean, her entire world flipped upside down. Everyone, including the pediatricians, which I'm so disappointed in, the complete and abhorrent denial of obvious relationship directly to shots. We know that those are potentially side effects. And after she finally regained function back, after, physical therapy, just pain and all this other stuff, she discovered she developed also POTS disease, which is another big concerning side effect for some people. Now, unfortunately, the story doesn't really stop there, because she wanted to go and pursue a career in medicine some way, somehow. And she got a job at St. Charles Health System over in Central Oregon. And she was very upfront with them. She told them, she was very honest with them. She has POTS. She has both a neurologist as well as a nephrologist. She had documented medical records, etc. No problem, right? Well, fast forward to today, of course, she's at very high risk of having another, if not worse, incident occur. Kids or people who develop acute flaccid myelitis, only about 60% of them regain full recovery by 6 months. It's not a guarantee. It's very debilitating. Her POTS disease is debilitating. It's debilitating. Just ask the numbers of people who have now developed it or who have it, and their entire life is centered around the symptoms and whether or not they can manage that day with those symptoms. So she has this horrific reaction, and she 100%, according to both the FDA and the CDC in terms of prior reactions and someone who should get an exemption, she qualifies. And guess what? They denied it. They denied her exemption when she, of all people, most definitely deserves and needs to have that. Where is the compassion? Where's the humanity in that? How can you tell me that it behooves her, when her risk of having another severe, if not potentially deadly reaction, is exponentially higher than so many other people? And so they don't even care. They're essentially like, okay, you're out. Where's the humanity in that? As physicians, As physicians, where is the humanity and the compassion? Those were just two of many stories. I mean, just looking at some of the statistics, we now have almost 20,000 deaths that have been reported to our reporting system in the US alone. Almost 20,000. When I first started talking about the concerns at that time, back in the end of or beginning of August, it was around 10,000. It's almost doubled in 90 days, 3 months, a little over 3 months. It's almost doubled. Disabilities are at close to 30,000 permanent disabilities have been reported. Permanent disabilities. Disabilities are not easy to get. Disability paperwork is not an easy hill to climb and to filter through and to figure out. And yet we have 30,000, almost 30,000 disabilities now, permanent disabilities that have been reported to the system. We have an increase in our reporting system by over 1,000%, and we now have almost 1 million reported adverse events in this year alone, strictly from the CV. How is that safe and effective? Please tell me how that's safe and effective. Our children, our boys, although both the DC and FDA, they've admitted that. I mean, they've literally admitted in both sexes that the rate of myocarditis is higher in those who get the actual shot than their risk is for a severe hospitalized infection. Their risk of having heart inflammation is higher than their risk of having a severe hospitalized infection. They've admitted that. And they've also said they still, even though they admit that, they still believe that it may have additional benefit. They have absolutely no idea whether or not our children are going to have more problems and are going to suffer more potentially. They do know there will be more cases of heart inflammation, but they're still recommending getting it. I think to really protect the adults and to protect the people around them, the herd immunity. But how can we say that is even, how does that make sense to put our children at higher risk for problems so that they can protect someone else? I'm at a loss, honestly, sometimes, especially now that I'm hearing stories as well, reports, more kiddos ending up in the ER with heart inflammation now that that's been approved. And interestingly, they also came out in the last couple of weeks to approve a blood thinning medication for these kids. Right at the same time, right? So they can make sure that they have something to treat them with when they come in. It's devastating, right? We have athlete after athlete, young and older, professional athletes, kids in high school, kids in college, literally dropping like flies, healthy athletes whose risk of, again, having a very serious infection is so low because they are so healthy. And yet we have these healthy athletes now dropping from the shot that's supposed to not only protect them, but protect other people. Over and over, right? And over again. So, what do we do now? What are our next steps, right? If we really stop and if we look and see what's on the news, and we talk to the numbers of people who've lost their jobs, are injured, lost their livelihoods, and are suffering, it seems really dire. It seems very bleak. It almost feels as if there's no option, right? But I promise you that while the dark forces that be want you to feel that way, it is not what our world has to become, and it is not the direction that we need to go. And I feel that it's actually really, really, really important right now to really speak at the importance of creating our future, creating what we envision in terms of what we want to see for our world. We need to actually start creating that today. We need to be a part of what we want our healthcare to look like, what we want our world to look like. Truly, because as the collective consciousness, it is our job to, in the day-to-day moment, to create what it's going to look like tomorrow, right? And as difficult as it is, and we all want to sit there and look at, and truly I do the same, you know, and talk about what's not fair and how inhumane and how not right so many things that are happening in today's world are. But the problem is when we're only focusing and talking about that instead of creating what we want our vision and our future to look like, we're staying trapped, right? We're staying trapped in that confusion, we're staying trapped in that fear, and we're staying trapped in the victimness of the situation that we're in. And while there has been a lot of things that people are dealing with, from whether it's work, stress related, you know, emotional stuff, all kinds of things, financial things in their life, it's never definitively gonna be that way forever, right? Those things that happen that don't work for us and that are painful for us to go through, as much as it's difficult to talk about sometimes, they are the lessons and the reason for that spiritual evolution and for that growth and for that understanding of whatever it was that we've been through, right? It truly can be a lesson. And right now, during this completely chaotic time, this is the best opportunity and time we have to create exactly what we want and exactly what we envision. So I'm just going to share with you really quick my vision for the future and my vision for healthcare. So you know, as I mentioned, I'm a physician. I'm Western medicine trained. Went to an osteopathic medical school. I graduated in 2010 and finished my residency in 2013. In 2007, I watched The Secret. I was pregnant with my second daughter, Bella, and I watched a movie called The Secret, and it literally changed my life in terms of how I viewed the world. That, of course, was very simple and kind of somewhat superficial in terms of depth and understanding. But, of course, I started wanting to learn more about what this was. What was this energy, this quantum physics that they were talking about, this universal law, law of attraction, you know, all these different things that they're mentioning and that they're talking about. And I very much resonated with and felt there was so much to that, right? In addition to that, I was introduced to a treatment therapy, an alternative treatment therapy called rapid eye technology. My mom introduced me to it, who found it through her own healing process. That was very difficult, of course, for her to go through, but this was one of the treatments that truly, it changed her life. And so rapid eye technology is an energy treatment modality. And I went and trained in 2009 when I was pregnant with my third daughter, Emmy. At that time, I was 35 weeks pregnant. And I learned all about it. And I honestly couldn't get enough of it. So I always knew at that time that I was going to do more with energy. I knew that that was something I really wanted to know more about and learn how I can help others with it. And I wanted to immerse myself. So, the next 3 years, of course, it was not the time to do that. I was in residency. And as soon as I graduated, I took a course called Alchemy. It was a 7-week leadership course, an energy leadership course that was all about connecting with your inner divine self, your inner purpose, and kind of figuring out how I could take my Western medicine trained specialty and somehow be that bridge or combine the two of them. Well, of course, lives, and I was working, delivering babies. I was very busy. I was working a lot. And so I kind of lost that vision for a while. And it was another really seven years of working within the medical field and seeing, really truly seeing hands-on both the brokenness of it, the inability to truly treat people at the root cause. I mean, one of the principles of osteopathy is mind-body medicine, right? You don't just don't just treat the symptoms with a Band-Aid. We're really trying to get to the root cause. And in reality, neither residency and I did not support that. And of course, working within a traditional medicine system did not support that either. We're spending 15 to 20 minutes with patients trying to have an effect and all at the same time manage their blood pressure, diabetes, and the depression that they'd been dealing with for 20 years, right? The options that we had were therapy, which talk therapy is amazing. And please don't get me wrong. It absolutely is incredible, and it has a very much needed purpose. It really does. But talk therapy can only go so deep, right? It's on the physical level. That's why they say you need 21 days to form a habit. So if you're going to do talk therapy and you're trying to get over a behavior or a pattern that's not helping you in your life, it's a lot more difficult just doing it with talk therapy, right? And I would just see people come in and they weren't getting better, and they're just getting sicker and sicker. And they unfortunately were putting all of their eggs, all of their hope on me, right? In the medical community, not just me, but all their specialists and all of their doctors. Everything was outside of themselves. Nothing was something they could necessarily do for themselves. I mean, of course, they could choose what foods they ate and they can decide if they wanted to take their blood pressure medications, but they all had the feeling or felt like everything, their health was strictly up to the physician. And I have truly seen over my years that the patients who didn't just take that perspective, but the ones who looked at it from a mind, body, spirit perspective, and they also were willing to be introspective with themselves, and they were willing to look at the patterns and behaviors that weren't working for them, right? And figuring out where that came from and really starting to do those things and understanding the power of their self in their healing process and how powerful they are when it comes to really creating everything they want in the world. And so essentially fall of 2019, when St. Charles tried to have me sign what I felt was a very unethical contract. They wanted to drop my pay by about $12,000 a year, and I'd be able to make that up monthly, about that $1,000 every month, give or take, if all of my patients, or I'm sorry, if a certain percentage of my patients met all of these different qualifications or preventative measures, meaning they had things such as, a certain percentage of them had their mammograms, a certain percentage had their colonoscopies, a certain percentage had their flu every year, right? All these different things. So what it does, unfortunately, is it puts you, the physician, in a position where you feel like you have to really pressure, right, and coerce your patients in order for you to get paid, for you to receive compensation. And a lot of this stuff, especially, like, for example, the mammogram, I mean, there's a lot of evidence to support that they actually increase your risk for breast cancer. And how much are we increasing that risk by screening them in this way when they're really just very nonspecific in terms of diagnosis anyways? Just little things like that, right? Medical freedom, having people make their own choices and decide what they want in regards to their treatment. And I wasn't going to sign that. I was not going to be putting myself in a position where I felt like, in order for me to make the same amount of money, even though I was working just as hard, I needed to work even harder and push people into getting things they may or may not want. And so I left St. Charles, and I knew then at that time that my vision of combining medicine and really being a bridge was going to start coming together. And so what I am actively trying to create and what I am putting together is a healthcare system, the new healthcare, right? That not only treats the physical, it also treats the spiritual and the emotional, because this truly is probably one of the most important things that we really should be doing. So I picture it globally, of course. I picture it having an impact on everyone, including starting in our children, right? So imagine coming into the emergency room. Let's say you've been in a major car accident, right? Well, first we need to stabilize you and make sure that we've stopped the bleeding and we give fluids and we're doing all those things, right? That needs to happen, right? But at the same time that's happening, we have energy machines. Frequency machines that can check the frequencies for 120,000 different parts and pieces in your body that all have and correspond to a different frequency. And when they're out of whack, your body is not in balance and it's not working well. So in order to augment what we're doing physically, we also want to make sure that energetically we find balance and harmony so that it can augment the healing process, right? I mean, picture Star Trek. You might think that is sci-fi. It's not. It's truly not. I mean, I have an AO frequency scan. I can already tell you stories of people and patients who have been listening to the inner voice a couple times a day, and their depression has completely turned around. And that's just a frequency scan. Another example of how frequencies, honestly, and they're not always good, right? So this concert, Travis Scott concert from several weeks ago, I posted about it on my social media. The reports and just looking at it, it looks very demonic. And evil. And then those are the reports that they're showing, and people are talking about the fact that the music and the frequency actually, I mean, it impacts, very much impacts all of us. And so not only is it very important to have those available for healing, it's also important to know that there are many powers that be, or many forces, I guess that I should say, that be, that want to use energy in order to impact us in a negative way, and have been doing it and are doing it for centuries and millennia, and continue to do it. It's through our television, it's through our news reports, our social media. It is what you're seeing, and the way that they do things, as far as mind control and manipulation, would probably be shocking. I'd be shocked to learn. So not only do I foresee and envision a healthcare system that both supports energetically, emotionally, and physically, but I also foresee and am excited to be a part of teaching other people, as well as our children, most importantly, how to block from these dangerous and concerning frequencies, and how to keep themselves protected so that they have less energetic influence around them and in their fields. And there's so many different ways of doing this, and so many incredible tools that are very simple, honestly, and it's really just a matter of some daily rituals, doing things on somewhat of a regular basis that become rituals that are going to help raise your own frequency, keep you away from disease, and keep you grounded and in a space where you not only handle the stress more, but you're not being inundated by all of the energetic crap that's literally being thrown at us every single day, whether it's from 5G or concerts, music, rap music in general. Not all of it. I'm not saying all of it, and it's not just rap music. There's other types of music as well, but there is, in that industry, very well known that it uses music and frequencies to affect negatively and to impact and influence thoughts and behaviors in people. Very much so. So what your children are watching and listening to, what they're going to bed and doing, has a very, very big impact on how well they are processing, how well they are managing the day-to-day things, how well they are doing in school. 100%. So this vision that I have is in showing people, our young, how to protect, how to stand in their own energy fields and stand in their own power, be grounded and firm in their decisions. And then we see that spill into our healthcare. We have the emergency room. Not only do we have frequency scans that can help balance frequencies, but we can have medical intuitives that can work alongside, whether maybe they are the physician. I know a lot of intuitives who actually are physicians. Maybe they are the physician, but we have intuitives and other people who can help realign chakras and can help from an energy perspective. And then once the person is stabilized, immediately following, once we get them stabilized, we then help support them to resolve whatever emotional impact was happened at the time of the accident itself, right? People have PTSD, they get anxiety, they have residual symptoms that, if held in our body, held in our field, and not released and processed, which we can help them do, it can continue to wreak havoc on our lives. And if we get to it right there in the ER, imagine how much better those people are going to be in terms of that healing process, right? Well, this doesn't just end in the ED. I mean, if someone's admitted, of course, using energy medicine is right in alignment with all of their vitals and their labs and everything else that we're doing, right? That they're all working together in harmony, really, in order to benefit the patient on the highest level. And then, of course, outpatient in the clinic, same sort of thing. They come in, and not only do they have access for, number one, longer appointments. 20 minutes does not give patients the education they need. We need longer appointments. We need more education. People who are helping from life perspective, right? Helping them develop some of those inner strengths, helping them to know how strong they are and the potential that they have to help their healing process, instead of to just rely on someone outside of themselves to do it all, right? And not only that, not only teaching them more about their own intuitive aspects, but also helping them increase their own spiritual gifts so that they can utilize those to further help with whatever they're doing in their lives. When I talk about this, for me, it resonates so much, I get chills throughout my body. It feels so good to know that not only are we helping empower people, but we're also helping them all the way around, comprehensively. And we're doing it cooperatively, because there are people that are not physicians that are incredible healers. And there are people who are not healers that are, well, they're healers, but they're not, maybe they don't do energy work, or maybe they don't specifically do something that you would consider, quote unquote, alternative, right? But they're still healers. They just do it differently. And by combining efforts and really each person having their say in terms of what makes up their healthcare, what team of people makes up their healthcare team, their healthcare system. Maybe it's a life coach, and maybe it's a rapid eye person, and maybe it's a physician, or maybe it's a you're a tarologist that you go to once a month, and your medical intuitive that just knows spot on, and your energy healer, or your Tibetan bowl practitioner. It's different for every single person, but it's absolutely personalized, and it's compassionate, and it's humane, and it's really how healthcare should be. I truly believe at the root, at the core, is how healthcare should be. I really appreciate you taking the time today and listening. I've been feeling very prompted, very nudged, that I needed to kind of share my vision with you. I feel like there's other people who are looking for something very similar. And I also felt like it was very important to share with you message of light and optimism. And I truly, truly believe that if we focus on those pieces, and that's where we put our effort and our time, we're going to get there. That is what will get us there. That trust and that belief sometimes is really difficult to do, and I understand that. But we can do it. We can. I know we can. This is the time. This is the time that's been talked about, right? It's been talked about in various religious books and other books that this is the time for evolution. This is the time for ascension. And this is the time that we become empowered, and we truly step into our God selves and start living through heart consciousness, and start making our decisions based off of that. This world will be unstoppable. I truly, without a doubt, believe that from the bottom of my heart. So I really appreciate the time and listening today. I will post as many of the links as I can. I'm going to post the studies down below. If there's something else, please ask me. I do have a bunch of data and studies. I have a direct link for a website where they're taking the direct information from the reporting system and they're putting it into an easy to read format. So I've got that as well. You can, if you are interested in learning more about energy medicine, please reach out to me. I'll also put a link to my website and my email below, so you feel free to email me. I'm happy to work with you, and I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.